This guy here obviously did not believe that the FBI was going to show up at his door. He thought he could taunt them or scare them or deter them from doing their job. This belief that's just sort of has been ingrained lately in American society that we don't have to respect the rule of law if we don't agree with it.
A man who posted violent threats against President Joe Biden and other officials online has been shot dead during an FBI raid. Agents were attempting to serve an arrest warrant on Craig Robinson at his home in Utah, just hours ahead of a planned visit to the state by Biden. A criminal complaint said Robertson posted threats on Facebook against Mr. Biden and a prosecutor pursuing criminal charges against Donald Trump. Well, the FBI has declined to give any more details. But let's get some more details around the story now with Michael Tabman, former FBI special agent. Michael, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Michael, kind of outline what exactly happened here, because it seems like it was an arrest warrant that escalated quickly.
Correct. So they were probably armed with both an arrest and a search warrant for the premises. Based on what we know about the suspect, the threats he had made, the bravado with which he spoke, the way he showed off his firearms, he probably resisted entry to the FBI. They forced entry, and he probably made some gesture with a weapon, threatened an agent's life by what he was doing, and pay the ultimate consequence for doing so.
This complaint said that Robertson posted threats on Facebook, both against Mr. Biden and a prosecutor who was pursuing criminal charges against Trump. So you could see where his politics were. How do the FBI distinguish between a credible and a non-credible threat?
I can tell you that that's evolved over the years. When I got into law enforcement, almost 40 years ago, when we would hear threats, it was generally just people spewing anger or hatred or frustration. And you look at it sort of with a jaundiced eye, thinking, do they really have the will and the ability to retaliate and do something dangerous? That has changed over the years, unfortunately, because we see people are much more readily adept at getting weapons and using them. They are much more willing to make these threats and take action on them. This guy here obviously did not believe that the FBI was going to show up at his door. He thought he could taunt them or scare them or deter them from doing their job. This belief that's just sort of has been ingrained lately in American society that we don't have to respect the rule of law if we don't agree with it. And this, again, is really a natural consequence of this terrible evolution of our beliefs.
Michael, you say people are more adept at getting their hands on weapons. Does that mean it's generally easier, you think, still, despite changes in legislation, to get your hands on weapons in America? Yeah,
it's easy. And I'm going to take back that word adept on that. Just, able to get it because better, wrong choice of words there. Just able to get it because it's just there's so much out there. It's hard to control. You see the politics of American leaders right now. They're just hesitant to put any controls on any kind of weapons. So we have these assault-style weapons, weapons of mass murder that are just out there, easy to get. We're not controlling it. Again, this is the consequence we have to expect to have when we put out more guns in a society that now is, embracing, violent response to political discord and turns a blind eye when it doesn't suit their political beliefs.
Michael, can you give us any idea about how many threats a president might get on a daily or a weekly basis?
Well, I'm sure. I can't give an exact number. The threats that come in, that we see are generally handled by the Secret Service. So look at this particular matter of this threat and how it came about with other crimes. It's under the broad jurisdiction of the FBI. But I assure you that every step of the way, the Secret Service was included in what was happening. But I couldn't give you that number. Something the Secret Service does. But again, you don't hear about it often. I'm sure they get hundreds that they take a quick look at, and many times we'll knock on the door and we'll find that it was a kid or it's just someone, maybe drunk or just someone with some mental illness. And they say, all right, don't do that. We know it was a stupid thing to do. Don't do it. We're not going to necessarily prosecute. But I remember back in the 90s, I investigated a matter of a low-level mobster trying to arrange the murder of Rudy Giuliani when he was a U.S. attorney.
Wow.
And we basically just charged him with threatening to kill the U.S. attorney. So these things do happen. But not again, if you look at every day that passes by, when it doesn't, and all the millions of people around, it's not a common occurrence, but we're not shocked when it happens.
That's incredible. So you don't know where a minor threat could lead, essentially. Can you, I mean, the president was heading to Utah, so there would have been major plans in place. But we now see the scale of those plans with the FBI, checking on people who might be a problem locally. I mean, what type of preparations will go into a presidential visit? I mean, how big are the scale of the security preparations for something like that?
Oh, it's huge. And, the Secret Service takes this very seriously. During my career in the FBI, I worked a number of things with the Secret Service. And whenever the president or the vice president came into our territory, they dropped everything. Left us without doing the investigation. They dropped everything because that is their number one priority. They are highly skilled at what they do, and they use a lot of manpower and their own intelligence facilities. They look, they have informants. They, look for information that would indicate any kind of threat to the president. The FBI would be doing the same thing, going through our intelligence sources, whether they be human sources or other sources of information, and seeing if there's any threat. I can tell you, one of my last years in the FBI, when I was a special agent in charge, we were getting a presidential visit, and one of my agents just happened to observe a suitcase on the side of the road where the president would be later, and called it in. And we just immediately, I called the Secret Service. They went right out there, secured the area. It was nothing, and we all assumed it was nothing, but you don't take that risk.
Michael, some incredible stories there. Very good to speak to you tonight. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Michael Tabman, the former FBI special agent. Incredible, that story about Rudy Giuliani that he was talking about there as well. So that man who posted threats against President Joe Biden and other officials has been shot dead during that FBI raid.